Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 6 of the Wisdom Workshop. Kathy, Julian, it's good to see you in my imaginary sense of you. Uh, Welcome. When I was structuring this course and thinking about how the course builds on each other, this week 6 kind of builds on everything that we've done so far in a sense that we're looking at partnerships, collaboration, facilitation, and leadership. So we're kind of taking this idea of connection with ourselves, connection with our heroes, exemplars, and looking at how that might apply in life, which is oftentimes how we might help other people. So right before I hit the record button, I asked everybody if they wanted to say anything. Matthew graciously offered to help people in their yoga journey, or if somebody needs yoga. And I think the comment you said was, it might be the case that we all need to help each other.
Take care of each other along the way.
Take care of each other. I love this idea. And the more in my experience that I extend myself to help another human being, the better I feel about myself. And the more I am working on myself, now this is a weird paradox because I have to work on myself. And I don't want to fix anybody else. I'm not like trying to make it better for anybody else. I'm still focused on being a better person for me. But I feel like a lot of that comes across in looking for ways to help other people. So, like, what is the good life? Maybe the good life is helping other people live a good life. What is a good, what kinds of things can we do to build community, to facilitate conversation, to extend ourselves for other people in a way that we're not just doormat? So we're having a good conversation where we're not just like, you know, not being a doormat. I'm still Sean, but I'm helping other people.
I'm yoga mat.
Yeah, thanks.
Don't walk on me.
I get that.
I get that all the time. So it's
I
just
love that.
terrible joke, but you get what I mean. Like the other thing is Sean, an important piece of this too is understanding like how often we do put ourselves out there, and people don't take your gifts and assets or receive them. And so
Yes.
it is like we need that true push and pull of awakening
Yes.
that oftentimes is like say yes to the things that we put off and say no to the things that allow us to get more space in our life to do those things.
Yes. Okay, and I'm so glad you said the last piece. So the way this course is structured is that we have kind of 6 weeks moving, and then the last week, the 7th week, is on rest and perspective. So I think that's an essential part of this. And honestly, should be built in every day. There's really interesting research and essays on the importance of keeping a Sabbath, not from just a religious standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint. Giving ourselves some room to really disconnect, take a break, and get out of this mindset that I'm doing this for this other thing. Well, I'm taking this workshop so that I can. Well, I'm going to school so that I can get a job. So I'm getting a job so that I can do this. I'm finishing this so that I can do this. I'm doing this so that I can do that. We need to think like that, and it helps us. But it's also really important to take a break. 1 day a week is a good marker to protect that, to be like, on this day, I'm going to do everything I can to just play. I'm not going to get into the utilitarian logic of I'm doing this to build my business so that I can do this. I'm posting this. I'm just going to show up and be like a kid. Kids are on Sabbaths every freaking day, right? The other thing, that point of rest gives us a perspective to look back on what's going on. So rest, reset, connects with perspective. So I knew when I made this course that I wanted the end of it to be an intentional period of reflection, which is focused on rest. We are 1 week away from that, which means this week is like the culminating work of everything that's happened so far in a certain kind of a way. We're kind of moving forward into that. And I just wanted to kind of preview and preface where we're going to kind of build up to, this is our chance to do maybe some of the more challenging aspects of this course. And I think one of those things is reaching out and seeing about forming a partnership. Hey, what's up? Matt, I'm so glad you called because I was thinking about you and I'm considering embarking on a long-term writing project with you. What do you think? We had this conversation on 2 days ago, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm
when
all in.
we start thinking about partnerships or collaborations or building community, I feel like that's like, does that seem like challenging? Is that a challenging thing?
It,
I think
it
we,
depends
yeah.
Yeah, on the people?
on
Or
the people, on the project, on
Yeah.
how you work together. Like everybody's so different. So some people can
Yes.
really genuinely probably work together very smoothly and nicely because they have the same kind of just way that they work. It's just very similar. But then other people, you might have like two controlling people in a situation that have two very different ideas, or just, yeah, it can go ooh, sorry, it could go very different ways.
I personally find it much easier to not work with other people because I have standards. This is a terrible thing to say. That was supposed to be humorous, but it's like kind of true. And so for me, when I'm thinking about, and like this workshop, thinking about this whole course is designed in a way that I wanted to take it over and over again. And I really, for me, there's real gold in this idea of how do I open up to another person instead of having them help me with my projects, which is hard, to see how I might help them with their projects, or to maybe create something together that neither of us really know what it is. Now it actually starts to be a little easier because I don't know what we're going to make together, but I know I want to spend time with you to do something for some reason. And that's what I want to work on today and this next week. What kind of collaborative partnerships might we want to work on? And I want to go back to that question. Is collaborate, because I've played my hand. I think collaborating is very difficult, personally, which is one of the reasons why I have this as like the penultimate week. So I guess I'm curious. Let's also say, can we just do a check-in here for about 15 minutes? How are we doing? Hopefully no one else ran into a parked car on your bicycle coming home from work. It's terrible. I feel better saying it.
Car.
I did, and I may have broken my elbow.
Oh, not good. Sorry.
No, it's terrible. But these things happen. And otherwise, it was a pretty good week. There's a lot happening. What the fuck? Oh, good job, Sean. Way to just get us going on a strong. Anybody else? I mean, check in other. Yeah. Well, it's trying. I'm trying to see it as a blessing. A real, like, it could have been worse, and man, oh man, it's just painful to not be paying attention. It's terrible. I am curious. I'm gonna change the tone here. As a facilitator, and when you're facilitating a relationship with another human being, if you take the lead on that, you have the opportunity to change the mood tone of the thing. I can be like, enter into the work meeting. Oh my God, how terrible is it to work here? Not a good start to the work meeting. One of the reasons why I never ate lunch in the teacher's lounge when I was teaching in a public school. Just toxic environment. So I'm going to celebrate something. I'm going to offer my celebration from last week, which is that I feel like as soon as I orient myself on how I might be able to help, opportunities come up to me. Like I don't have to try hard for them to find them. And so when I was doing my connecting work, I didn't share this with. I get inspired to make these interesting connections. I wrote a draft of an open letter to Cornell West last week, inviting him to teach a course at the Wisdom Workshop because I saw that he left his post at Harvard for very interesting reasons. And my open letter was, I saw that you left Harvard because the environment of the higher academy is problematic. I agree. That's why I started the Wisdom Workshop, and I would love to take a workshop from you, the thing of your choice. I want to post that letter as an open letter because that would be freaking amazing to get some other faculty. And then that made me think like, oh, maybe other people could help me do this who have things to teach. And if we get someone like Cornell West, ex-Harvard professor, oh, that's on the right track. Nothing else, me thinking like, maybe instead of me getting something from Cornell West, I was like, you know what? This poor guy, he's looking for some community. His resignation letter at Harvard was like, my mom died and 2 people reached out to me. I publish a paper and 30 people reach out to me saying congratulations. That's not right. Also, we're not here for the students. They're all, so peace out. I'm like, okay, Cornell West. Anyway, that was my celebration. I haven't posted that, but I wrote an open letter to Cornell West inviting him to the Wisdom Workshop. That was on like right after our meeting. And I really like this idea that there's people out there that can help us if we're willing to kind of see how we might be able to help them, and like that kind of like relationship. So that's my point of celebration. Does anybody else have anything they want to celebrate from last week?
I don't know if I would have thought of this as a celebration, but when you're coming off of last week with around connection specifically, I feel like I had a really, really busy week in a fun way. I was kind of all over the state with work, doing, a fundraiser with First Descents, which is a organization that I support that I've kind of lost connection with through COVID and things just slowing down with them. But so I was with them the first half of the week, and then I was with some girlfriends in the whole other part of the state the next half of the week. So I was kind of doing all these fun things, and I was so busy. So I had a lot of non-intentional connections, which I guess I left last week feeling like it would be great to start to try to have more intentional connections. My week wasn't that, but I'd still look to celebrate it because I did have a lot of connections, again, reconnecting with some people through an organization, just being out in nature with a lot of people that I'm not normally around. So there was a ton of connections. So I came into this week feeling pretty fulfilled, even though they weren't intentional connections, which, I guess that's kind of where I would love to take the connection. But even that, it's eye-opening. Oh, just being around so many other people and different types of people, you learn so many different things, and it just gets your mind thinking in different directions. So I would celebrate that from my last week, even though it wasn't kind of my intention with the connection conversation that we had.
I want to celebrate. Yeah, thank you, Mindy. I'd like to celebrate just sticking with this and being with the group. I don't do shit like this anymore. And like, I'd rather be like Sean and sit in my study and rip apart these books and write shit. And I think that like, the more I've been opening myself up and realizing how much I really do have to offer, the more people will receive my gifts. And so I just feel like I've had a lot really like tucked way down underneath the surface, and how much it's sometimes like you could feel like I said before, like you're in an emotional barbed wire that's just kind of like getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And I finally feel a little spaciousness in my life, my breath, my practice, my teachings. And I think that a lot of what I've been going through is like most of my teachers are the ones that hide behind that curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. Like you don't really get to see, you get to see the show, but you don't get to see like the realness behind. And I'm the teacher that's going to open that curtain, open the doors of my house, open the doors of my heart, and offer as much as I can. And so that celebration is like not being so reclusive or introverted into being an extrovert of connecting with people.
Big turning. I love the idea of cultivating your own inner gifts, like in a way that helps you share them. It's not exactly what you said, but it's like both. It's not like I'm just in my study to cultivate these gifts that I share later. It's like being in community and connection with other people. It made me think of Ashley too for some reason. So I felt like I needed to reach out and see if she's okay because I haven't heard from her.
And Sean, a lot of that comes from really the study of yoga that I've done was really to accrue the information to share it, like to teach it. When you can really embody it and then find out what that little missing piece is. Like in my practice, say there's a missing piece, a broken piece, and an extra piece. And sometimes those pieces feel fragmented. When you realize those pieces can like work together and they may be falling into place, then I'm taking the information to use and apply for myself. And when that happens, there's a transaction of value that no monetary value can offer.
Yes.
And I think that when we start moving away from like, what's my time worth, or what's like, is it precious, or as if it does it really even exist? We really need to understand that we're sharing ourselves and our humanness and our realness more than we are our speciality or like privilege. So when we can really level the playing field, now we're on deep learning terms, and oftentimes that begins with ourselves. So I just really can't tell you how much this has held the mirror in front of my face and been revelatory.
I'm so glad. I think that's a big part of the group. Do you feel like it's like the group, the power of the group too, right, Matthew? Not, it's like, what is it exactly?
Well, that's exactly what we discussed on the phone. We talked about everyone, all of you behind you, and no, I'm kidding. I just said this group is very, like Ashley said, very compelling from different walks of life and from different ages. And when you have a diversity like that, I think it's like we've seen this struggle in yoga, and I know I keep going back to that, but that's my career, and how whitewashed it really is, and how unacceptable that is. And I study the depth of tradition from more of like, and excuse me for the word, a Hindu viewpoint. So I have high standards and high expectations and very low tolerance. And so with that way, I've had to really work on receiving people for who they are, what they can offer, and not expecting more from them. And meaning like, I'm not gonna ask my brother who has never come to my class, do things to take him outside of his character of what he can and is willing to do. But this group, like you guys have all brought it and put it on the table, and I think you've done an amazing job, and I'm appreciative and grateful to be here.
I want to go.
Diana, please.
Can you guys hear me fine?
Yes.
I've heard complaints about my AirPods this week.
Sounds good.
Cool. I did absorb some of your hyped energy, Sean. It's not a complaint, it's just an awareness. And I think I'm trying to understand what is it that I'm thinking and feeling. I think it's just a reaction of like, and it's not very common, I think, that someone gets, especially with this pandemic and me not seeing a lot of people face to face on a regular basis, that someone opens up and says like, this just happened to me, or I'm struggling with this. So I felt myself going into this react mode of like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I say? And also reflecting on, as a 33-year-old, I am also aware I'm not confident yet, and maybe, you know, I feel like as you grow up and old, with age, you understand what is the right thing to do and to say. And maybe it really depends on your connection to that person, how well you know them. I am battling inside thinking, what would Sean like me to say right now? Or, you know, what do I do? But just tuning in inside, I think the first thing that came to mind was just sharing, and you probably already know this, it's like what I probably would do, what I would tell myself is just like feel the frustration, feel the anger, be present with that. And I did had a little moment this week. I'm starting to train for a marathon and I'm having to do long runs. Of course, in Boston, the snow is pretty bad too right now. So I went to the gym and I brought a bottle with water. And this week when I got there, I was in the locker room and I dropped the bottle and it broke. So it was right before my run, like it was as I was getting ready to go on the treadmill. And it was just the moment of realization. It's like, okay, I'm going to run 2 hours in that treadmill with no water. Okay, at least I get to run with, process that anger, frustration, sadness, and let it, just leave it there on the treadmill. And I did that. It was helpful that I was able to move that emotion. So that was my little frustrating moment of the week to share with you and your frustration. And my celebratory moment was I did get to have a first meeting with this mentor that was assigned to me in this program that I'm part of now, trying to become a software engineer. And it was a great 1 hour. We connected, we shared our backgrounds, where we're coming from. And that's on one side. On the other side, I've also been having now regular meetings with my team, which is a group of 8 young folks that we're trying to become software engineers. I'm probably the oldest in the group. And so I do feel part of me is able to mentor them in a way, like they're all still in college. And that's been really fun to have someone to go to for advice, but also having someone to share my advice with.
It's really cool to be in the middle, to be a mentee and a mentor at the exact same time. It's unique. And congrats on the meeting. And thanks for your willingness to be nice.
I'll pipe up real quick and quickly and just say that I admire all of you who feel like you have gifts to give, because either I haven't figured out what my gifts are yet, or I don't have any gifts to give. I mean, if you want like a hotel appraisal, I can give that to you, but like, who needs that? Nobody in the real world needs that. That's my former job. I mean, I just feel like I don't really know exactly what my gifts are, maybe yet. Anyway, so I admire all of you who have gifts to give in different ways and forms. I think I haven't figured out what mine are yet.
I'm like slack-jawed because how much I love that.
Well, I feel lost.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing too.
Yeah.
Maybe being lost is great.
No, yeah, I love that move as well. And I do think I like hotel appraisal as an example of being like a worthless thing. So I'm going to totally go against Matthew's comment and say like, I agree. Like that's a worthless gift to give. No, just as a joke. Sorry. I just love that as an example because at the end of the day, it's not like you're feeling great. It's not like you're like, oh, I appraised the hotel and my work here on earth is done. Right? It's like, that's not the kind of thing, right? The other thing I just feel like why I love that so much is that as a gift to say that. Benny is like, feeling that.
I can make people laugh, and that's kind of, I'm like, is that my gift? Do I just make people giggle by being a strange human?
A goofball?
Can we see a show of hands of people that felt like Amanda's share was a gift? For me, for sure. That's why I was slack-jawed. Because here you are. Yes, here you are saying, I don't know what my gift is. I'm trying to figure it out. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so valuable for me. And I'm writing it out. And then I'm like, that's really ironic right? The person that says, I don't know what my gift is somehow communicating a gift to the person who's trying to figure out what content would be most helpful for people to make, right? Which is this question: how do you understand what your gift is? I imagine that a lot of people are still trying to figure that out, especially when they see other people who appear. Matthew, I think maybe you have a very clear gift, Matthew. I don't know what my gift is. I'm trying to figure that out. And I'm sorry, Matthew, that was unfair for me to put that on you. I should just say personally, I don't know. Like, I still am trying to figure that out as well. It might seem like I have it figured out. I have no idea. And honestly,
Maybe it's
there's
one of those things where each of us is just too close to ourselves to recognize it, but people
That's-
outside can recognize some gifts.
I was totally going there, Amanda, in my head, because when you said that, I'm like, I feel like I don't know what my gifts are. And I'm like, I turned 50 years old this year. And I'm like, how do you get this place in life and be like, I don't know what my gifts are. I don't know what I'm here for. I don't know what I'm doing. But I also think that, and I could be wrong, and maybe this is just making myself feel better, but I think other people see your gifts more than you see your own gifts. And I don't know why that is. Like, I feel like that, and I feel like I've experienced that in life, where I'll be like, I don't know, I'm not that exciting of a person, or I haven't really done that much cool stuff. And then I'll talk about my life, and people will, from the outside, will be like, oh my God, your life's really cool, and you've done all these amazing things. And I'm like, I have? Like, it's like I don't even recognize my own self or my own gifts. So I don't know what to do with that, but I feel the same thing.
I have this conversation with my best friend all the time, especially because I feel like I don't have any like physical like things that I'm good at. Like, I'm not specifically good at like any instrument or any like dancing, physical thing, art. Like I don't know, you know? And she always is like, dude, you're like yourself, you know? And like, you're so yourself that you allow other people to be themselves. So like, even something like that that is special. That's super cool. And ever since she like, we talk about this often, and like, the more we talk about it, the more I do kind of see that. And it's interesting to try to like switch your perspective from like physical gifts and like tangible things to just something like that, like just how you are being a gift in whatever way.
I was just gonna, that was
Wise.
awesome, Benny. I was gonna say the same thing. Like, what if we changed the whole thing around and realized you are the gift to the world? You've already received the gift. There's nothing more that you have to figure out. Like, this whole way of really understanding, like, yeah, I always say life is the gift and yoga is its blessing. And I say life is the gift, meditation is its blessing. Like, you've already received the gift, the embodiment of what you are. Like, it's like winning 15 lotteries. The probability in all of it to take place is like getting struck by lightning 5 times. I mean, just that you're here, the universe went great trouble for you to be here. It's like the gratitude and appreciation goes a long way just for that.
There's a some calculation of what it takes to actually get to have sentient existence that's aware of itself is something like 1 in 400 billion. I think I missed some zeros, which that doesn't really help if you feel like crap. It's like, yeah, thanks. But I also want to add one other thing into the mix. One, maybe, and just to recap, maybe other people see our gifts more than we see them. Like, we're too close to them. And our narrative might get in the way of it. So that's one. Two, maybe our ideas, perhaps just being who we are is a gift. And the ones I'm playing with is, maybe we're in the process of figuring out what the gift is. Maybe it's like, maybe it's a dynamic thing that I'm still like actually working towards the gifts that I'm trying to give. I thought it was being a rock star in my 20s. That was my gift to the world. And then that changed a little bit. And now I'm like, maybe it's about being a songwriter. And then that changed a little bit. It's like, maybe I'll start my own school. I don't know. Maybe we're in process. I don't know, Amanda. What do you think about all that?
I mean, there's validity in all of that, the dynamics part for sure.
Yeah, that's
It's just always changing. I think we know that.
I don't know that we can put words on it either.
No,
Like maybe we
it's
just can't
lacking.
articulate it.
Yeah, I'm lacking descriptors.
I feel like we
Yeah.
also change so much
Right.
that
That's the
it's changing with us. I feel like there is no one thing that is your gift, you know? That's pretty that leaves a lot of pressure, you know? Like, oh fuck, I gotta get one thing that's my gift and I gotta be really good at it. Like, no, not necessarily. Like like when you were a rock star, that was your gift, and when you were a songwriter, that was your gift, you know.
And there
and
is
it all
increased.
worked out, and now you're here, and this is your gift. Like, it's awesome.
There's increasing research, David Epstein's range, that it's not about doing one thing, or at least not. We think of it being like one. This is like a really good dancer. They've committed their life to this, and more increasingly about being a generalist or doing a bunch of different things, like having maybe your hotel appraisal is going to come back around in this really interesting, weird way where someone's like, holy shit, I never thought about hotel appraisal. Or no, I never thought about Pokemon. I'm trying to think of another thing that isn't related to hotel
super
appraisal.
obscure. Yeah,
You know what I'm
super
saying?
obscure. Yeah.
They're doing tennis or something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I do think too, if if your gift is your energy to a degree, like your energy isn't everybody's jam, right? So talking again back to connection and all of that stuff, like if you're bringing a certain energy, yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
Maybe that's.
Matt totally has a hand raised there. Oh boy.
Hi, Kathy. Welcome.
You're muted, Matt. And then I want to let Matt say, and then I will do the formal invite for Kathy to get her caught up on this.
Sorry, but not sorry, friends.
Does anybody else want to do? Or Matt, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I like, and like I'm sure that many of you have felt that in the way. Like I bring a big presence, and it's just like it's like being raised a male in the rougher west side of Chicago. There's like a stigma to that. And like living up to that oftentimes has been everything that I've tried to crack the code against like orthodox living. And it's been really challenging. So like putting yourself in the box versus like understanding like we're not here to be put in the box. We're here to kind of question the box. And so I don't mean to always like come in hot, but I'm a fiery kind of guy. And like, and it's just something that I've had to like really tone down over the years. But it's also the synthesis of deep learning for myself. And I just, I appreciate everyone that's shared themselves.
And it is kind of go where you're appreciated. It's like maybe the gift is like, instead of like cultivating the right gift, cultivate the right tree to just sit underneath. To like switch the metaphor. Would anybody else like to offer a giant recap for Kathy? Or I'm in a good position to do so. It's for my listening practice. Okay. Wanted to preface this by saying this is our second to last meeting. And the next meeting is on the importance of rest and perspective. And so I just wanted to get that in the conversation to say that we're kind of building up to this point where we can rest and take perspective, and that might happen sooner. That might be like this week. You're like, man, I really need to rest right now. So that's kind of that on the table. We're moving from connection to collaboration and partnering, like taking connection one step further with working with other people and projects that we're engaged in, maybe longer term timeframes, and exploring that as possibility challenges around that. That was all like the material that we discussed like leading into the meeting. It's a full moon. It was a full moon 2 hours ago. I ran into a parked car on my bike and maybe broke my arm, and everyone was trying to wonder how to help. And so that was interesting. And I see, Kathy, you're such a kind person. It's so great. I'm doing fine. We're doing okay. Over here. Okay. We did celebrations for the last week, and so I want to invite you to do celebrations. And Deanna shared that there was this interesting thing that she was really, when she heard that I hurt myself, she was really interested in helping, but not really knowing how to, or not like knowing what the right thing to say was, even though she really wanted to say the right thing. And still gave some really nice advice to be present in the anger and frustration, because that was a big part of it for me. It was like, why did I do this to myself? Very avoidable. It was a parked truck, crying out loud. What was I doing? And then Amanda really opened up the entire meeting by saying, maybe I don't really know what she's just like, I admire everyone in this group that has gifts to give. So I don't really know what my gifts to give are. And I'm still trying to figure that out. And I loved that because that confession seemed like a giant gift. So it was laced with this paradoxical irony of the person saying, I don't know what my gifts are to give, when that share itself was a certain kind of gift. And then that led to the big discussion, which is incredibly on point for this week, to see what is it that we have to offer other people. And maybe we don't know what that is. And maybe it's almost insulting to be like, hey, Matt, do you want to do something where I offer you what you need? This is what I think you need. I have a gift I'd like to give you. Because it's like, I don't know what to do with this, man. And no, thank you. I already have a lot of stuff in my house. Versus, hey, man, I was thinking about you. And I was thinking about writing with you. I don't know. What does that feel like? Right? Very different. And I think that pretty much, so then he said, maybe other people see our gifts more than we see our own. Benny said, maybe our gift is just being who we are. Like Benny is the only Benny. Good job, Benny. And that's a gift, right? And good job, everyone, for being the person that you are. Maybe our gifts are in dynamic process. Maybe the gift is your energy. And maybe if people aren't receiving your energy, it's less about you and more about the tree that you're under. And I think that catches us up. And I'm feeling, I hope Ashley's okay. I don't know. I sent her an email. I don't know where she is. And that's what's going on. So, welcome, Kathy. Hi. That was a lot. How are you? You're muted.
Yeah, my mouse doesn't like to move on the two screens. I'm doing okay, but that's a powerful topic, actually. For me, I wrote the date in my notes, like, oh, February 16th. Oh, it's my brother's birthday. And he passed, he was killed biking on the road 22 years ago. But it was, and then this was, yeah, I don't know what my gifts are to give. That's pretty much what I go through about every 4 years is who am I? And yeah, I always think it's like this cyclical thing in life because you never really, you're always changing. Nobody's ever stagnant. But I've been doing a lot of reflection. February is always this time for me to just pause and reflect. And that's, anyway, it's kind of point on with what I was thinking about last night. So thank you, Amanda. Very poignant.
It makes me want to go talk to the people closest to me, who I have the most history with, or family or friends, and be like, "What do you think my gifts are? Hey, people, what do you think my gifts are? Do I have any gifts?" Just because I'm curious now about what people might think your gifts are, who aren't you.
Yeah, and I would recommend that because my kids keep me grounded. It's always humbling to me when they were like, "I was just bragging about you," and I'm like, "What about?"
It also could be careful what you wish for. They might tell you some things you don't want to hear.
They're
also good.
Yeah, but they're always dead on. Yeah, the good stuff and the bad stuff. Yeah.
When you first mentioned it, Amanda, I definitely thought of I know within the notes shown this past week, you threw in some videos from Simon Sinek, and that's the main question, right? To find your why, you ask your friends, why are we friends? But you ask the question like 3 or 4 times until like you get the hardcore like emotional response, and I think most likely will be like, because you are, not because you do, not because you
Yes.
provide this, it's because you are amazing, because you are so kind, because you are patient. And I haven't done it, but I definitely like, I tune into what my friends say about me to get clues. And like the other day I was having dinner with my 2 best friends, and he's like, oh, you're good at teaching. I'm like, yeah, I kind of already knew, but hearing from someone that's important to you is like, oh, okay, they see it too. Like, I'm not crazy.
That's really interesting. It's like perf promo time at my company, and there was this woman who I tapped and said, I want to help you write your packet because she's so awesome. And when I asked her to describe what she does, I was like, that's not how I see you at all. And I kind of told her what I see, and she was just like, oh my God. So I think we should be, keeping that energy up too with our, people around us, because nobody really sees what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, or sometimes I always look at it too, like it's not even, I don't see what I do. It's like, I don't recognize the things within myself that other people recognize. Like to me, a lot of the things, like if I were to ask my friends, like those questions, I think sometimes they're telling me these things and I'm not even hearing them, because it's like, they might say something that to me, I'm like, well, right, but that's simple for me, or that's easy for me, or that's natural for me. So I don't see it as a gift. Like I'm like, well, that's just, but to other people it is seen as a gift. And I go through that a lot, and I don't, just little things where I'm like, I don't know, I can be very spontaneous, and I've done a lot of things in life, and I've gone here and tried these things, and I've had a lot of friends over life being like, well, it's just so amazing. Like you just take all these risks and you do all these things. And I'm like, I do? Like, I don't even recognize in myself. I'm like, I do? I thought that's just normal, because it's normal for me, but to other people. So I think what you said, Deanna, is really great. Like your friends and your family and the people closest to you could certainly enlighten things, about yourself that you don't even recognize in yourself. So I like that almost exercise that you presented.
Maybe like, because I kind of agree with that. I feel like I connect with that a lot. And maybe like, I mean, I'm not going to speak for other people, but maybe for me, that bringing intention into those things that I do that are like pretty small, but like just like being more intent about it and thinking about it more and like mindful while I'm doing it could allow me to recognize that that is more special than just like being on autopilot and doing what I do, and then someone being like, oh, that was really nice, or like that was this, that was that. And instead of me being like, whoa, really, I could be like, yeah, like I really like sat with that, and I like really like I really did that. And like really just recognizing it more because I'm with it more. I don't know. Yeah.
What keeps coming up for me is that I often like try and come from an angle of like truth is self-evident, and what your truth is may be very different to someone else's truth. So the paradigm of how you've cultivated like your beliefs, your structures, your ideals, what you tend to be interested in may be very different to someone that's studying the same topic. And so I try to give a lot of space and breath for compassion of not knowing what someone else is dealing with or what their battle is, but knowing that we're all going through them at certain times and different times. And like Kathy said, I think about that not every 4 years, probably every 4 minutes. And so just kind of like in a place of like, here we are again. And so when you find your forest of thoughts and your labyrinth of feeling, sometimes it's easy to get lost, and you need your friends to reclaim where you're at and draw you back out of that fog or veil. And it can be challenging just to ask for that first. Like just to ask is challenging enough.
Well, I think the writing invitations this week are the weakest out of all of them. I don't think they're as good. Just side note. Um, Especially not in light of go to your friends and ask them why are we friends? Powerhouse. Go to the people that are close to you and ask them what gifts do I have? Way interesting to kind of what's really interesting here partially is how the narratives we're telling ourselves about ourselves might not be the way, you know what I'm saying? There's like some slippage here in how I'm talking to myself about myself, what stories I'm telling myself about myself, the questions that I have versus how other people see me. And I don't think that they're right per se. They're just like, that's just your shit, man. Like you're seeing who you want to see in some regard. Like I don't want to give them the authority to see me either. But I wrote down that I do feel like these relationships are a means for us to recognize ourselves. And especially if you engage with someone over a longer time period, a friend, a potential partner, business partner, colleague, someone you're building something with, more things come up, I feel like. Which is the big challenge. I mean, I don't know. Diana?
I do want to share too. Sometimes we do find out what are those gifts, or we are very well aware of what we're good at. And that doesn't mean we have to do something with that gift. I do feel like, after you train for years at a sport or something like that, it doesn't mean that you have to keep doing it your entire life. And I think that once you're aware of your gifts or what you're good at, then the focus comes like, oh, okay, from all of these gifts, what is it that makes me come alive, right? Where is it that I feel like devoting my time and my energy and all that? And I feel like I'm on that at that step right now. And it probably also a following question is like, okay, am I supposed to be making money with these gifts? Like, do I want to make money with these gifts? and yeah, and with the topic of collaboration, that's coming up a lot for me. It's like, okay, what can I do with this in a way that's fun and maybe makes money, or at least pays the bills, or maybe not, but it's a lot.
I really appreciate that share, as it reminded me also when you ask your friend why they like you, or they're not going to tell you, oh, because you teach at CSU. I'd be like, really? That's not why that's right. It's not what we do. It's more about who we are. I think there was someone that said that the divine mothering, so feeling I don't know how this is going to be out of context. So I guess it's the idea that matters. If we feel like we have like a mother mothering us, helps us feel that it's not what we do that's important, it's who we are. So it's like, it's you that's important. You can do whatever. And I also think like my mom is always just like, I just want you to be happy. You know what I mean? I just want you to be happy. So I don't know, your share, maybe you don't need to like turn your love of songwriting into a freaking side hustle. Sucks. Songwriting for a side hustle sucks. Songwriting does not suck. Songwriting is fun. So I really appreciated that. Long story short, that was a great share for me. Yeah, I needed to hear that.
I also want to channel my inner Ashley and ask Lyric to share how she's doing.
Yeah. Oh, Ashley did say that she had something came up. She had to cover for someone at work. She's fine.
Hey guys. I'm okay, I guess. Just kind of in like the heart of school right now.
Good.
In a way. Yeah. Don't really do much with my days or like with my time. Just kind of focusing on getting through the semester, I guess. Being okay. Yeah. All the things that you guys talk about are like really hard for me to like relate to, or like really hard to like for me to like add in on, just because I'm, you know, I don't have much experience with much in my life. And I'm at a really weird point where like my job and my days and my life is all just like college. Like all the time. And I don't know, some of my classes are getting like, I have classes that are hard. I have some that like make me not even like my major. So I'm at this weird point of I don't really know what I'm gonna do.
You're doing education, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't like it.
Some terrible classes in our education department is terrible at CSU. I think it's absolutely shit.
I really don't like it.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I
Not
think
good.
Greeley's the better department in education.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I thought about going to grad school for education, and I interviewed people in the education department, and I was appalled at how it was
Like,
terrible. Felt like high school.
Yeah.
So I feel you on that. Have you asked any good questions in class the last week?
Well, I kind of just asked them like, why do they do things like the way they do? Because I'm in a class where we spend like 3 hours at a middle school, and they were telling us all about how they like are disregarding homework and they're only going to grade like tests and like large projects instead of like other things. And I was like, why? Like, why would you do that? And they said that their like theory on it is like how if you look at Michael Jordan, and when he wins a championship game, you only count the points for the championship game, but you don't count the points that brought him there.
Oh
And
my
I was like,
God.
I was like, this is so bad, and I don't want to be in it anymore. I really don't like it. I don't like any of the things that they're teaching me. Yeah, it's really scary. It's really scary.
I thought they were going to say, like, for a semi-legitimate reason, like equity and the challenge of doing homework for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, but that was like kind of part of it. But then they're like the main theory is that like
That's
it's gonna
so
matter in the end.
counterintuitive.
That's-
Both but the teacher and Matthew and I are both like unreal. You don't ask Michael Jordan. He will tell you it's the hours you spend in practice and how seriously you take practice. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing.
And then like we were all asking questions like, well, can they like retake everything? And they're like, yeah, of course you can like retake tests like as many times as you want. And I was like, well, why wouldn't you catch the things they don't know like as you're going? And I don't know.
Well, that's
I'm
great.
really, like,
You're on the trail for formative assessments, and really, maybe it's not. And honestly, having that experience again, who knows what that's going to be. I just feel like I have to say, not having experience is kind of a nice place to be in some ways. Like, it's just because you don't have
Yeah.
experience doesn't mean you don't have anything to offer. And in fact, that can be really valuable for people with a lot of experience.
yeah. I mean, it's not like it doesn't make me like sad that like
Right.
that I don't like have much. I have like some things like if I like look back on like my life, I think it's pretty cool, and I had a lot of really cool opportunities, and I met a lot of cool people, and I can like name a bunch of things that I've done, and it sounds like I'm old. Sometimes I'm like, wow, maybe I'm not 19, maybe I'm like in my 30s with all this like stuff that I've done.
You're an old soul, Lyric.
Thanks. I tried.
I was just writing that in the chat. Old souls are a blank canvas. They always will be. Like you see it as like, so this is just a gentle teaching of just like what I present in the like the word Maya, like delusion or illusion of two truths happening at the same time, not seeing things the way they really are, is in like classical yoga understanding, that's the problematic situation. And what I teach, that's the breakthrough. Like the Maya is the unknown, the uncertainty, the mystery that gives you the possibility of interacting with. like something to work with, something to play with. So see that as a beautiful opportunity to pause, take a deep breath, and that you don't have to figure it all at once. So yeah, old souls.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I like it. And you were talking about like how like important rest is, and I thought that was really cool because I feel like I've been resting for like weeks now, but like I'm not in any rush to get anywhere. I've got really nothing to do, and so I'm just kind of, I got like my things to do, of course, but a lot of times I'm like, I'm just resting, and
It's
I don't really.
crucial.
That's what I got to do right now, I guess. And then also, I was going to say something about you breaking your elbow. And I remember I've like gotten a lot of injuries before. I was like an athlete all through like middle school and high school. And those are like the main sign of like you're taking a break. Like you're taking a break
Yeah.
right now. Because like you can push yourself so hard, but until you get hurt, it's like, yeah, you gotta force yourself
No
to take a
pun
break.
intended on taking a break.
Oh
Yeah.
no. True.
Yeah.
Hope it's not broken.
Yeah,
Oh
me
yeah.
too.
Hopefully it's not broken.
Thanks. And thanks. It does feel like, yeah, anyway, thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Lyric.
I love your Abbey Road poster, by the way. Top 3 albums of all time, hands down.
Oh yeah.
I think so, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a cool poster. I have a poster here. It's the New York Stock Exchange. Don't really know why that's there, but yeah.
Well, here we are. I'm so happy how this went today. One of the things, yeah, it just doesn't seem relevant. The things that I had prepared don't seem as relevant anymore.
I was curious. You had in your last week's the learn the art of communicating.
Yes.
Is there any like did anybody see that one and the key takeaways that you felt?
Do you want the rundown of it?
Well, I was just curious if people were like, you know, any insights for yourself when you saw it. Yeah, sure. Sean, maybe give the quick rundown.
This does actually connect to the other piece. It's really, it comes back to presence and attention. Can you feel when people are listening to you because they care about you versus listening to you because they're waiting for their time to say something more? Do you feel like you can feel that? Do you feel like it's a practice to be able to listen to other people in a way that cares about them? That's the art of communicating. He also says, and a lot of that thing that I think is so interesting, is that communicating is a way of caring. There's a couple of things that stood out to me. One of them is if you want to be in communication with yourself, you have to put your phone behind. And that our mobile devices are only designed to put us in touch with other people. They're not designed to communicate with other people.
Mm.
And that we miss that a lot. If I think I can communicate with you via text, that's not really actually, it's very difficult to communicate with you via text. I can use text to set up a conversation with you. And then when we're having our conversation, I'm going to fully focus my attention on caring for you and myself. And I'm going to enjoy it. Thank God you called me. I need to stop doing this work. That's how usually I feel when people call me. It's like, whew, give me an excuse to get away from this computer screen. Thank you. and also get out of my head. Listen to you for a while. And a lot of people end up saying, I don't want to bother you. I know you have a lot of stuff to do. I don't want to impose on you. But, and I'm like, please impose away. I like that. None of my students come to office hours anymore. Office hours is a ghost town. I ask them, why don't you come to office hours? They say, oh, well, we don't want to impose. I'm like, it's part of my job. Okay, so Kathy, please. That's the gist of it.
Yeah, and that's the one that when people were checking in the recap, this is what is too easy to backslide on.
Yes. Oh, good.
And that's kind of my theme. It's when I really focus, and I catch myself, like today I want to be present. And then I'm in a meeting and I'm like, I can get this other thing done. I missed the whole conversation. I'm multitasking. Yeah, but this is probably the hardest. Like I'll just leave it at that. But I think it's the secret sauce for everything this workshop is built on, is how do we really stay aware and mindful. Yeah, and I've taken to grading after meetings, like, did I really listen? Sometimes I catch it like, okay, that was good, but yeah, I mean, I've improved. I'm going in the right direction, but I think the pandemic, working from home, relying on text, that was the end of my relationship, actually, was via text, which is crazy. And that's, yeah, I think society as a whole has just gotten lazy in our communication. So I think that's what you're kind of saying. That's why I kind of zeroed in on that video. It was short and sweet and hit a lot of nails.
It hit me like a brick when I first heard it. I'll just share some of my notes since I have those from that. I probably should just put them in there. He also makes a distinction between nourishment versus consumption, and that nourishment's healthy, consumption is toxic, and that it can be a fine line between those two, especially like if you're on TikTok. He also says non-thinking and non-talking. This is what I need to work on. He says, as soon as you have a perception, this is so Buddhist. As soon as you have a perception, you are caught by it. So can you practice the art of not having perceptions about the people that you're talking with? Even a good perception. Oh, Lyric, I love that you said that, so much so that I stopped listening to you after you said that. And I was just thinking about how much I love that. Oh yeah, this was the quote. The purpose of your phone is to, I love Thich Nhat Hanh, he passed away. He's so great. The purpose of your phone is to communicate with love and compassion. I just feel like I should post that as a giant poster-sized thing in every room of my house, just so if I'm using my phone for not that purpose, I can get off of it. He says to be in conversation with yourself. Leave your phone behind.
And that's what I've been practicing, and I was surprised how hard that is.
So hard. I'm gonna add another celebration. I backslid hard on the no phone before pages in the morning. And I snuck it in because I want to listen to the news. Mm-hmm. So I listen to the news on my phone from TuneIn Radio, listen to NPR. Then I see, what's going on in Clubhouse. There's a news club. There's cool news in there. And then, well, just real quick, how'd that TikTok video do? Oh, actually, just real quick, what's going on Instagram? 45 minutes later, that was my time to write. So on Sunday, I recommitted to no phone before pages, and it's been true since then. Yeah, it seems like some people had some things to say about that. I feel like this is one of the biggest challenges of our time, as we have this like incredibly stimulating and fascinating and awesome. TikTok is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
But dangerous. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, if I pick up my phone in the morning, my morning pages don't happen. And I'm trying to put it in a different room and not get to it. And then the other piece was doing my walk or my run. I used to listen to books on tape and, Audible. And now I'm just leaving the phone, and it's that time for meditation, right? And that's the hardest, I found, because it's just me for an hour and a half walking in public, with people, and I'm not busy. And but I'm liking it a lot more because I'm looking around. But it's so easy to backslide on that phone crutch.
Okay, yeah, these are great. Holy shit. These are how to practice the 6 mantras of loving speech from the end of that book. Number 1, he says, practice saying these. 1, I am here for you. You want to say that? I am here for you. He says, nothing is more precious than your fresh, solid, free, and calm presence. True presence is an act of love. Then he says, we can say this to ourselves and others. I am here for you. I feel more loved already. So good. That's just the first one. Number 2, I know you are there and I am happy. I know you are there and I am happy. Oh, very happy. Whoops. I know you are there and I am very happy. Acknowledges that you see the other person and that they're important to you. Number 3, I know you suffer, and that is why I'm here for you. He says, don't try to fix them, just be there. And you can use this when you notice suffering in yourself too. I know you suffer, and I'm here for you. Ooh, number 4. This is a good one. I suffer. Please help. I think that's what I was saying when I said that I hit my elbow on the street. I was really saying, I'm suffering, please help. Number 5. Oh, this is a good one. This is a happy moment. Number 5. This is a happy moment. He says there are so many conditions of the happiness of the here and now. Being able to recognize this happiness requires mindfulness. And then he says, why do we have to wait to be happy? Fucking love this man. Okay, number 6. Oh yeah, this is a good one. You are partly right. Number 6. You are partly right. And then he says, when you criticize me, I won't get lost in this. When you praise me, I remain humble and know I'm not perfect. Without judgment, I investigate and improve. He also says, and this is a good one. I can put those. I can share those. It's probably helpful to put in the material moving forward. What you read and write can help you heal. Be thoughtful of what you consume. So if we see our pages as a practice of communicating with ourselves, we can also show up lovingly to ourselves in our pages. I think that's why I geeked out on that book when I read it, or when I listened to it. It seems so relevant. So I should put in the notes. Should I put? Does anybody want any one of those 6 mantras of loving speech again? Should I just put those in the notes?
If it's easy to add them to the notes, that'd be great.
I will. It is. It's easy enough.
Thank you.
It should be in there anyway. I will type that. Be good for the relationship workshop too. Long answer to your question, Kathy, but gosh, I love questions.
Yeah, it was just out of all the readings from last week, that was the one that jumped out.
He is a gem.
I'd like to throw a curveball to the idea, like, what if people aren't ready for your gifts? What if you're on a new paradigm of visionary expansion? What if you're on something that no one even knows yet? What if you win the next Pulitzer Prize? What if your simple idea could be like the breakthrough that saves a corner of the world? And like, you don't know when that's going to happen. And so by diminishing your gifts that aren't maybe cultivated yet, just because you don't know them doesn't mean they don't exist. I'm speaking to myself too.
I think we have a real problem in our market economy by valuing what we have based on how many people like it and how much it might sell. Especially considering, do you remember I think I told you the story, Picasso's doodling in a coffee shop and someone says, "Oh, would you do a drawing of me?" And Picasso says, "Sure." And she sits there and he goes, and she looks at it and she goes, "Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. How much do you want for it?" And he says, "That'll be $3,000. She says, $3,000? That only took you 15 seconds. And he says, No, you misunderstand. I've been working on this portrait my entire life. It's a good one.
Not about what happens in the championship. It happens what leads you to the championship.
Yeah, it's not about the test, man.
With the Chicago Bulls sweatshirt on, in the ways of the all-time champions of champions and Michael Jordan. Meaning, what I'm making, not that it matters, I'm just making a joke on this whole bigger scheme. They won so many titles in a row. What took 1 year off? Don't tell me it's about just the championship. There's so many things that go on: the franchise, the organization, all of the synergy of the group, the chemistry of the team.
Bringing it back on topic, where that last one too. What's the Carico problem, Kathy?
Carico is the woman who was working on mRDNA research for 30 years, and everybody thought her research was not worthy, not interesting. She got demoted, and it's actually the foundation of all the COVID tests. And so we take it seriously on, like, are we poo-pooing somebody's really groundbreaking idea because we're looking too short? And in research, it's a big problem because we tend to promote those that are, anyway, when I first heard of her, it really impacted us. And then they are kind of seeing, these lessons learned. Like, you really, what Matthew is raising is actually a real problem. And we have to be, it's that curiosity. And that what you're saying is, can you drop perception? Can you drop judging? It's hard.
It is hard, and it takes practice. That's why I think even just giving yourself 5 minutes a day to be like, this is the space where I write in my journal and not judge myself for what comes up. You know what I mean? That's why that's the foundational thing from this course and why it's coming back right now. It's huge.
it almost brought me to tears, to be honest, of how we don't value people in their, let's say, like darkest moments that oftentimes can be their biggest breakthrough. Where really, like, we've treated people like Buddha, Confucius, like these, they end up walking away from the world and they have everything, and they're seen as like almost schizophrenic or obsessive compulsive, or they just don't fit in that box that everyone's placing them in. But what's happening is they're really working at a level above and beyond how the brain works in more of an entropic state versus our categorical, very like critical thinking and rigid mindset of like, it has to be done this way. The cultural appropriations of how we oftentimes feel that we have to do things a certain way, otherwise it's unorthodox. And like, that's why a lot of people like are considered mad or something else, when really they're some of the brightest minds that just aren't ready to express it yet, or can't articulate it, or can't get it out yet. And I think it's damaging for what we've done in the layers of psychology. And one of our biggest failures is the understanding of the mind and consciousness right now versus all the other fields of science. And that's based on a materialistic viewpoint that matter came first and consciousness came later.
Here's what I want to do, because we have 5 minutes left. Do we agree that the synergy of this group is powerful? And by synergy, I mean we're building off of each other's ideas. And that we weren't really sure. I wasn't sure where this was going, but Amanda, your share like broke the whole thing open for me. And not just for me, but for, I think, okay. That's what I think is so fascinating about this whole work. And then the question is, how much agency do we have to create that synergy outside of this container? Right? Like we are basically, the service that I'm offering is this container for people to be able to come to it with this mission of wanting to live a better life. Figure out my job thing, figure out this thing, figure out that thing. Then you get in here and you're like, wow, this is cool. Other things are happening that I didn't expect. The question this week is, how much agency do we have to create this in our own situations moving forward? And I honestly think it can happen between two people or between ourselves and our pages. But there's just a real power in this. And I'm not saying you need to start like a Zoom call with other people. And I'm not saying you need to start a business with somebody else, or a painting group, or a cycling group.
Don't forget the tennis club.
Tennis club. Yoga.
I was there, Amanda.
Open yoga session.
Hotel appraisal people.
Hotel appraisal. You know, and that maybe no one shows up to that hotel appraisal thing. That doesn't mean
Probably
it's not That's so good. What I want to do is really lean into this idea of, I mean, my question is going to be around what kind of ways might we create this synergy in our own lives? What kind of ways might we be interested in collaborating? How can we be more open to those kinds of collaborations this week? But another prompt here is, what can I do to make the most of my time here? And I'm hesitating to ask that question because we're going right up into this period of rest. So maybe it's a resting period already. But at another time, there is an opportunity here to see what's happening, what's coming up, what might I do? How might I take this further beyond this? Because this is almost over, people.
Sean, one thing that I really, and the group, excuse me, I just, one thing that I've noticed with you and I think Sean's onto something really big, and as we all are, but you know, this cohort idea and what he's working on. And so I throughout here has been stoking his flames and like blowing on the fire and just like trying to get it like to bellow a little more. And so I think we all need that muse in our lives, someone that's willing to do that. And like for my teaching and my
Yes.
learning, like I need someone to poke the bear. I need someone to like kind of like agitate me a little bit, and then it unleashes, and not in an aggressive way, but in a way that like asking better questions reveals more and deeper questions. So it's not really about the answers. And so a lot of times it's just really interesting where I think we hold ourselves back until that right interaction or right person or right group or community or collaboration, and then it really like sets you on fire. And I think that that's like an important piece to understand, that like we all need confidants in our lives that can see our blind spots, but also that can see our successes and achievements as well.
It's another great prompt. Whose fire can I stoke? By telling them like, hey, what you're doing I think is really cool, actually.
Sounds kind of dirty, but it's not.
Yeah,
like
and it's okay if it is.
so
Yeah,
funny,
exactly.
right? One of the things is like above the line and below the line from Jim Detmer, who's really interesting in conscious leadership. Like above the line, you're not attached to the outcomes. Below the line, you really are, and it gets in interpersonal muck. And to kind of keep our relationships above the line, but that makes it like when you say it's dirty, that makes a whole nother like above the line, below the line distinction that.
It quivers, it pulsates, it may not, you know, and so
It
so in that
bellows.
way,
Yeah. Whoa.
yeah.
Whoa!
But
Well,
the
my arm
the-
is healing itself spontaneously.
the next workshop that I'm offering, it's called Yoga for the Love of It. The following one is Dancing with the
good.
Shadows, and I call it the Fire and Nectar practice.
Yeah,
It's like
so
the fire
good.
and nectar, and so you have a little bit of both. You have to have that little like sense of paradox.
Well, I'm gonna refrain from saying anything else here. Probably for the better. We
I'm
didn't get
never
to.
gonna be able to stoke a fire again without like laughing uncontrollably. I'm gonna be in the back country like stoking a fire, giggling.
That's right. Like, what are you doing over there, Amanda? What's so funny?
That's so funny. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that's a gem for sure. I wanted. Yeah, I just want to create space for us to nourish ourselves in our writing. That's what I was going to do. If we haven't used the prompt, what do I need to write? What do I need to hear right now that would be most nourishing for me? That's what I was going to use, but we ran out of time. So you might want to get a move on and then practice that one. What kinds of nice things can I say to myself? What do I want to write that's going to feel good for myself? Likewise, what might I write to other people that's going to feel good? The prompts this week are kind of thinking, they're more life designy, also in thinking like a skill sets. What skills can I offer other people? I just am not, the more I do this, the more it feels like I love the conscious leadership stuff. It's a really actually interesting framework to think about being conscious in our leadership with other people and the different leadership styles, thinking about our leadership development. And there is really good ideas on life design teams and building failure immunity. So it's not that these invitations aren't great. It's just, I don't know. I encourage you to make them your own. And if you were going to ignore ones, this might be the one week to ignore. I don't know. Maybe that's just me judging my own gifts. Maybe if I didn't say anything, maybe you'd be like, this week's invitations were amazing.
You're partly right.
Partly.
This is a happy moment.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to end the call officially and stop the recording. Matthew, I want you to tell me what you have to tell me about taking care of my elbow. So if anyone wants to hear Matthew's tips on what to do for a potentially broken elbow, you're welcome to stay on the call. Did I understand your offer correctly, Matthew? Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. Take care of yourselves before next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So I was just saying, I have a lot of modalities in the ways of like, if you need biomat, it's a biomat that you lay on